All right, hey everybody. So normally I would be in the car, but we met up with Patrick and Crystal there. I drove Crystal, and would have her in the video, but we're outside the theater. It's actually really nice out here. And it's warm for California, for a boy like me, that where 70 degrees is scalding. But yeah, so here's the theater. You can see the theater in the background. Lovely Fremont, California. Again, Patrick back there. Hopefully not that stuff's getting into the video. But yeah, we're seeing In a Violent Nature. I don't know. Don't know what to think. I've had some friends that really enjoyed it, and they saw some preview screeners, and I'm just hoping that it's a good slasher type movie. That's what I'm really looking forward to. The story seems stupid. Oh god. And I'm getting hair in my mouth as I'm talking. I don't think I'll cut that out. But yeah, I'm hoping for a good slasher. It seems like it's from the perspective of the killer, which is different. Could be kind of cool. And yeah, we'll find out what it's like after the movie's over. So see you in a bit. Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'm back from the movies, from seeing In a Violent Nature, and yeah. This one might be shorter than most of the other ones that are there, but it just didn't live up to expectations. That's going to be the biggest takeaway from the movie. Like, seeing the trailer, and the thing is, I didn't see it very much. I only saw it a couple times, and it looked really interesting. Like, a slasher movie from the perspective of the killer, and it kind of like living what goes on kind of in the background, right? As everybody's trying to figure out how to deal with the killer or escape from the killer or do those types of things. And it's only some of that. It's a lot different than what I thought it was going to be. And the biggest problem, like, a lot of that, it has to be explained in the spoiler section. But you're gonna have to endure a little more of an artsy movie than maybe what even I was expecting. I was expecting it to be artsy, to be honest with you, from the way the trailer was and stuff. But from a couple of people I know that were talking about, oh, the kills are really good and it's entertaining, and I just didn't get all that. The kills, when they're shown, are good. There are some kills that are off screen. There's at least 3 that are off screen. And there's one that, even though it's on screen, I just don't know why it's there. There feels like there's a lot of padding in this movie. And in some cases, I'm okay with it. But as the movie moves on, it just drags it down. And the final sequence in the film, I just don't know what the hell was going on there. I understand that it was important in terms of the narrative, because we didn't get a whole lot of narrative in this movie. And that's where I really feel that a lot of people are going to struggle with it. Again, went with the normals, went with Patrick and, my cousin Crystal, and my other cousin Angelo was there with us. And, and they were all in the Infested review. And like, I know Patrick was really like, oh, I hate this movie. This is just a bore fest, and everything like that. And he can be very boisterous when he talks about certain things, especially when he doesn't like something. For myself, like, again, it's a tale of two halves. I've said this multiple times, where I think it started off great, and then it hit the half-point mark, and it just doesn't really go a whole lot of places. And I think that the biggest thing is that there is a lack of story. You get background on Johnny the killer, right? But you don't know really anything about the campers that have taken the necklace, other than very at the beginning of the movie, oh, this looks really cool. Oh, let's just take it. And then you meet some other characters. There's not a whole lot of characters in it, but a lot of the movie, honestly, is watching the killer walk from place to place. I go back to Clerks 2 with that stupid joke. It's Lord of the Rings. It's just people walking all over the place. That is a lot of this movie. And there's a couple of times where I was expecting something more, and I just wanted something satisfying at the ending of the movie, and you don't get it. There is no satisfaction there. And I have to go into spoilers about that, because I really can't say much more. And I was really at the first half of the movie, I was really going like I was enjoying. And there's a lot of things I laughed out loud about because I thought they were kind of ridiculous, but it was fun. I was having fun with it. And then I stopped having fun. And that's ultimately where I was. Like I started the movie at a 4. Ultimately, for the final score for this movie, it's a 2 out of 5, fireman's hoods. It gets it for the practical effects for all of the gore. The gore itself is pretty good. The kills that you see are really good. And it's interesting in terms of the way that it's building the world. And then just everything else just kind of just drops. And, if it really wasn't for the practical effects and the kills, I probably would have maybe even gone to 1 territory. I see that it's got like an 86%, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just can't understand why it's that high. And maybe because it's the initial reviewers of the film that are bringing this out, and as we get more and more reviews, that score is going to be knocked down, especially kind of people that aren't really into like the artsy type of horror. I don't mind artsy horror. I mean, I saw the TV Glow. That's as artsy as it gets. But that is like artsy with a purpose. I like the fact that this is shot like it's a VHS tape, right? That it's in a 4:3, type of ratio rather than being in a regular widescreen ratio. Things like that I enjoy. But it's just if it could be any slower, they might have done it. And a lot of it just feels like they were just stretching out time. So we're going to go into the spoiler section. So if this is where we're saying goodbye, thank you so much for checking out this part of the review. And we're going to head over into spoilers. See you guys in a bit. Okay, welcome to the spoiler section, everybody. So, this film is I think it's going to be so divisive among people, and I know there's going to be people that absolutely love this movie, and unfortunately, that's just not going to be me, right? When it comes to this, the story is really straightforward, and it's a straightforward slasher movie. A bunch of teenagers or kids or college students or where the hell they are. I really don't know. This is Canada. They go, they're out in the forest. They see a burned down like fire station, and there's a locket that's on top of something and like a pipe. And they like, oh man, this locket looks really cool. Like this is the beginning of the movie. And they snatch the locket and run off with it. And that awakens Johnny. Johnny happens to be the spiritual embodiment of a little kid that was tricked because somebody broke their leg on one of his toys, and he's an autistic kid. And basically they blamed him for leaving his toys out, so they decided to scare him by bringing him to this like fire station, fire post, whatever it is in the woods, and they scared him with wearing an old style fire mask, and he fell off and he died. And then the father also died, but his spirit came back and killed all the miners that were there, the people that were working out there. And so this is the older physical embodiment of it. Basically, this is our stand-in for Jason Voorhees, right? It's the best way to think about it. Like a lot of slashers, and it definitely takes a lot from the lore of Jason, I would say. Not the lore, but the idea of Jason Voorhees. That's a better way to put it. And so he awakens from the grave, right? Because he no longer has the locket that keeps him underground. And he decides to go after the kids and kill them. That's the basic premise of the movie, right? And like I said, the problem is like in the beginning, it didn't bother me so much because they do that. They bring him back to life, right? Accidentally. And then he gets out of the ground. It's very slow, and he's gathering his surroundings, and he needs to go after the locket because he wants his locket back. He is hyper focused on that. That's the whole goal that he has, is just to give that back. Right? And then he'll go away. That's basically it. But none of the characters in the movie believe that that's the case. Like, it would just be, it's interesting to see that side of things, right? That ultimately, that's really what it is. He just wants this shit back, and he needs to get it back any way he can, right? And so he goes off into the forest, and we follow him walking in the forest. And I was like, oh, this is just a little bit long, but okay, I get it. He just woke from the grave and then he comes upon this house where there's a ranger that's arguing with a dude because Johnny also stops, and everything. Majority of the film is from the perspective. Well, not the perspective, is from a third person narrator that's behind Johnny almost the whole time. Right. And not in a narrator in terms of actually talking to you. I'm talking about just you're the omnipresent, camera that's watching Johnny, and it's almost all from his perspective. So he never talks, and there is dialogue in the movie. It's not like the movie's completely silent, even though it could use from just some music sometimes, and it does do music in certain parts, but it's not super effective. And I just wish there was something that was following him, even if it was just a low violin or something like that, just so that there's, maybe that's what I think some people are going to go and complain about me, is that, oh, well, you just always need stimulation to get you forward. You're part of, the younger generation, and I'm not young anyway. But like they always have to have something. It's like, you go on TikTok and you see the two different videos running at the same time. The top is a Family Guy thing and the bottom sewer surfers. And that's all our current generation is, because and then there's text flying on the screen. The text on the screen is so that they can keep their phones on silent and still watch their TikToks. But now it's just become a thing. And it's honestly, to me, it's fucking annoying that it even happens. But I digress from that. So he goes to the farm, and there's the two people arguing because the one guy's laying traps in the park, this like national park for wherever they are, and he's like, "You need to stop doing this. Go on there. If I see you again." So they're arguing, and we saw Johnny come across a trap, and there was an animal that was just left out there, and there's markers where this guy's been like hunting, right, for whatever he's doing, and so Johnny goes in the house and ultimately confronts him. He sees a pendant, and he thinks that's his mom's pendant, so he attacks the guy, and the guy like tries to shoot at him but misses. He's basically firing warning shots because he thinks it's the ranger that's there, but then he gets like surprised, runs off into the forest, eventually gets caught up in one of his own traps and killed by Johnny. But we don't see him get caught in the trap, and we don't see him get killed by Johnny. And at this point, like I was saying to myself, the way that the movie is going to go is going to be based upon this first kill. It doesn't have to be super bloody, right? I am under the belief that it's with first kills in a movie, it really comes down to what's a good first impression and what do I expect from the rest of it. If it's off screen, I'm going to be a little apprehensive of everything that's going. Now, it subverted my expectations with that, but it still has some off screen kills, right? So this is the first one, but when he goes back and he grabs the chain and it says like the number one motherfucker on it or something like that. It's something motherfucker. I can't remember. But he goes and grabs the chain, realizes that the chain is not his mom's pendant. And so he continues to walk out in the woods in the direction that the campers, were. And we slowly walk by and we see the devastation that was done. Like the dude's head is completely caved in. It looks like a goddamn Muppet, in the way that's going to start like flapping its legs, or not legs, but mouth, start talking like Julia Roberts. So you know the type of Muppet that I'm talking about. And so then we're following him along again. And it's just these long shots of him just walking into the distance. And eventually he comes across all the kids hanging out at a campfire. And then it's such a weird choice. I don't necessarily agree with this because they basically are talking amongst the campfire. And this is where they're talking about the legend of Johnny, and what has gone down. And, one of the guys was trying to say, don't take the locket. And of course, one asshole does, right? Because like, oh, it's pretty. It's probably worth money. So I'm going to take it. And so they're all sitting around a campfire, and we basically meet the fodder, and the camera is constantly rotating around the campfire. And I just like, it takes you away from Johnny, and it's almost like maybe you are in Johnny's shoes and walking around them without them and like sizing them up. But I don't think that that's the case. It's weird. I just didn't like the choice. And again, it lasts for just a little bit too long. Like, do a couple of different things. Or I like the idea of you not always seeing like or hearing everything. Like everything's kind of piecemeal together, or like it's in the distance. It would have been kind of cool if Johnny came across them, but he's also like an inquisitive kid, because this is where we learn that he is an autistic kid and he's just kind of the spirit of that. And, that he's just sitting there listening to him in like awe, right? Maybe listening about himself really has him in awe. But I kind of would have liked if he was like kind of walking around and like surveying the area and you just heard it in the distance, because they were kind of doing that with the initial one, right? But they didn't do it here. They just did this really close focus on everybody that was there. So that night, one of the student, or I don't know, one of the young kids, those youngins over there, hey, young kids, one of them decides, after they all break, and there's an argument between a boyfriend and a girlfriend, the one that stole the locket, and they supposedly brought like a friend who's having some issues, and he's bringing everybody down. The boyfriend hates it, and the girlfriend's like one of her good friends, so she's just like, oh, don't be like that. Now I'm mad at you. Like, those tropes are fine, and I think that it plays it. And the fact that we don't get the full story on that, I'm totally 100% for that. That this is where I'm like into everything. So we go to the other group, and one decides that they made a joke about like, oh, I've still got it. The girls at the gas station, they were into me, and I think I could get something from that. And so he's going out to go take a shit, I guess, at the outhouse, and they're all messing with him. And there's some other stuff that happened at the campfire. We meet the one crunchy girl that, because the guy is going to say, the R word. I'm not going to say it here on YouTube. It's the other word for autistic that a lot of people use. And he's like, oh, you're going to get me canceled. She's like, there's no such thing as cancellation. Like, she's really fucking annoying. And I'm like, I know she's going to fucking die. But she, it's like they're trying to put this, like, uber... I'm not going to use the phrase that a lot of people would use in this thing, the W phrase. But just like ultra liberal type of like situation with her character, right? Not ultra liberal, but like that college student like stereotype, best way to put it. And, so she's doing that. And, she's also like the one that has to take the picture. Oh my God, everybody get in here. The lighting is great. We're going to do one with the flash and one without the flash. Then you got the stoner chick, and then you got a bunch of random dudes. So this guy is also a stoner dude. That he's the one that knows the story of the area. He goes out to take a shit. His friends make fun of him, thinking that he's going to go off and try to find those girls. And then we get a good kill. Like, this surprised the shit out of me, because the first one was off screen, and I was like, oh my God, are these all going to be off screen in the way that they're going to do it? Maybe they're just going to show aftermaths, but not the kill, and that's a way for them to keep the budget down. No, they use their budget on specific kills, and this is one of them. Because, like, Johnny goes up to the cabin, and he grabs a hacksaw, right? Or a log saw, whatever you want to do. It's like two handles on the sides and the blades and stuff like that. I would call it a hacksaw. And so he grabs a hacksaw, and the guy's like leaning against a tree, lighting up a doobie. And yeah, you can tell that I'm old. And so he's lighting up, getting ready to smoke. And then that's when Johnny comes from behind, wraps it around this tree, and then like shoves it in his mouth and starts moving it back and forth till he chops the top of his head off from the mouth. And then his tongue is like bouncing up and down. It's practical. It looks fucking fantastic. This is amazing. I was so impressed by this goddamn kill. I was like, oh, okay, so if it's going to be like that, and the pacing, even though it was a little slow, it's still pretty good, So he ends up grabbing the body, and there were so many times I laughed, probably more of like a church laugh with type of things, but it was funny because then he goes to the ranger station, and when he goes to the ranger station, he's dragging the body. He's got like half a head in one hand, and he's got the rest of the body that he must be dragging by the tongue, right, over there. And so he goes to the ranger station, tries to open the door. It can't, and there's this thing that says ring for bell. And then he like you hear the ring for a second, and then you see him bash the head through the window of the door and just throw the head, like the half a head, onto the floor. And I was laughing because I think that's hilarious. And I thought that was actually pretty cool too. And then he's looking in the inside, and then he sees the display case that has the fireman's hood, which becomes his hockey mask, right, for this. Or even, I would do this more with like, the second Friday the 13th, where he's wearing the burlap sack instead on his head. And then he takes the body and like he breaks the glass with the body. It's hilarious. And I think that's a good use of that. It's a good use. Like, I think there's supposed to be some type of humor in there. And at the same time, that it's just ridiculous in the what he's doing. But he's like, I don't have anything else to break it. I mean, I could punch it. I'm undead. But fuck it. I got this body here. Might as well fucking use this thing. So he does it. Takes a set of hooks and a fireman's axe and the hood and puts the hood on. And then and I love too that it's not until about the midpoint in the movie that we finally see Johnny's full face. But here we still haven't seen anything that's there. So he goes back over, as he's going back to where the young people are. That's where we meet the stoner chick and the hippie chick, or the college liberal chick, if you want to. Maybe that's better. And we're getting onto probably one of the coolest kills that I've seen in an extremely long time. Right? And if people say that kill, this is the kill that they mean in this movie. So the stoner chick is interested in the liberal hippie chick, and she's convinced her to come down to the lake in the guise of yoga, but really she's trying to hit on her. And there's like playful flirting back and forth. It is what it is. And so she jumps in the water and she's swimming around, and then the girl gets flirty with her and she's like, I'm going to go over here and do yoga and get some stretches in. So if you want to try your hand again at flirting with me, maybe you can stretch me too. I'm like, oh God, are they talking about fisting? Because, yeah, it's interesting. That's what the thing is implied, but it is what it is. So, there's a cool shot of Johnny walking into the lake and going under the lake. And then it's like, it sucks because this is the one I really wish there was more to, because she's like swimming, about to get out, and then she gets pulled under. But they're just long shots of absolutely nothing, of her just being in the water and just her from across the lake. And it's like, you would think, I guess that we're trying to get some stuff in real time of how he like travels between places. And this is kind of where it starts to lose me some. Because I'm like, while, it'd be interesting to figure out how Jason travels, right, in between places or gets there so fast. Whether, he's like a cheating marathon runner and he's just got a random fucking car somewhere that he's going to go and jump into, or he's magical and like a video game, he just disappears and reappears in the place that he is. It would have been kind of cool to have something different for Johnny, but Johnny just kind of slowly walks everywhere. So if you want to watch someone walking for 60 minutes, it seems like it's like 60 minutes of the movie is him just walking places. And a lot of this is your movie. So he kills her underwater. You don't see him. You just see him rise out of the water. He like drags her down. You see her get pulled down, and then she struggles, comes up for air, gets pulled down again, and ultimately her body's left floating on the top of the water. So she drowns. Okay, that's fine. A drown killing is okay. I'm not really hyped about it. But then we get the best kill that, again, I've seen in the longest time. So he walks up the dirt road and eventually runs across the college liberal girl. And she's doing her yoga, and then he steps on a branch, which alerts her to, like, she thinks it's the hippie, not the hippie, the rocker stoner girl. And it turns out that it's him. And so she runs to like the cliff, and I it's like this slope. And if I were her, I would have taken my fucking chances and just jumped off the cliff and slid the way down. Because it looks like that's what she could have done. Yeah, is it steep? Yeah, there's some bridges. Yeah, maybe you get a rock in the cooch. But that's better than what happens to her. And so, like, she turns around, thinking about jumping, but Johnny comes up behind her and punches his hand right through her stomach with one of the sickles in his hand, and then just leaves it there and pulls his hand out. And then she's got this gaping wound, and then she turns around, she's in shock. And yeah, it's funny because my cousin's like, there's no way that she would be able to walk with an injury like that. I get it. But I'm going to suspend disbelief because I kind of want to see what's going on here. And so he starts pulling the chain through her body. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess he's got to get his weapon back. But no, he takes the end of the hook, sticks it in her head, then turns her around again, grabs the chain and starts pulling her head through the open giant fucking wound in her stomach till he turns her into a little human ball and then pushes her ass down the fucking slope. So if she had died, say, taking that chance, she's going down the fucking slope anyway. It's a cool fucking kill. This is the one of the movie. This is what people will talk about when they talk about In a Violent Nature. So it's at this point that I'm kind of hyped and I'm kind of with it. And it's past this point in the movie that it just doesn't turn out that well. So we go back over the camp. You know, we see that there's an argument between the boyfriend and the girlfriend and the friend, and we find out that the friend's dad died recently, and that's what's bringing everything down. You know, that's why it's a bummer, and she gets mad at her boyfriend, so she leaves, but Johnny's there to go and attack the boyfriend. And so I like this one too, right? I like the idea that goes behind it, because it's kind of cool that he goes to the car, he takes a giant stick, sticks it in the car. Oh yeah, there's also the scene with the car keys, and this is where we see Johnny's full face for the first time, and we see how childlike he is, because while they're arguing, the boyfriend throws the keys to the car in the woods, and it lands right in front of, perfectly in front of Johnny. So Johnny picks up the keys because there's a little toy car, and he just wants to play with the car. And when he takes off the mask and you see him, and it's just like a child's face. It's a grown man, but the way it looks, it's like, autistic man, but an autistic grown child is what it more feels like. And he's just playing with the car, and he's so into it. And it's just like, you can see how easily distracted and how focused he gets and how hyper-focused he gets, right? By just playing with a little toy car that's on the keychain. That's the same hyper-focus that he gets when he has to go and kill, the rest of the youngins that are out there, or that he has on his mom's pendant. Because even when he went to kill the one trapper dude, he looked in a mirror and there was an image of his father saying, "This is from your mom. It meant a lot to us. And your mom wanted you to have this and keep on to it." So that's why he's hyper-focused on that. So he goes after him. So he puts the piece of wood in the car, starts the horn, walks around the building. And when he walks around the building, that's how he distracts the boyfriend so he doesn't get seen. And I think that's kind of a cool move that they put in there. I'm not going to lie. Like, things like that are interesting. And then so he ends up coming up from behind on the boyfriend, starts attacking him, puts a giant gash in his leg with the axe. And then there's the other friend, the last friend that's there that we haven't seen from in a while, except for one scene towards the beginning of the movie. He's got a rifle and he shoots, misses, but shoots again and manages to knock down Johnny, and then grabs the boyfriend who's there after the girlfriend and the other friend went to the ranger station to go find help, because like, I don't know where the other friend is, the one that got his head cut off. And so we get our next off-screen kill, which again, I'm not super thrilled about. It's like we get one off-screen to one every kind of good gory kill that's there. And so, the friend is trying to run away with the boyfriend, and Johnny ends up getting up, grabs the axe, and does like the laziest throw. It's like that. It's not like a really strong looking throw. It's literally like a and he throws it and manages to hit the guy in the back of the head. So he kills the one friend. The boyfriend isn't he's got the giant wound in his leg, so he's not able to walk so well, and so he's crawling on the ground trying to get away. And that's when Johnny picks up a rock and just bashes his head in with the rock, and you see that in its full gory glory. Again, it's like a watermelon or something that's down there, or some type of like meat bag that they've created where they do that, and then it just spreads everywhere. It's cool. I think that's also a good job as well. So that's when the girlfriend and her friend come back from the ranger station, because they've discovered when they get there that their other friend was decapitated, or half decapitated, and was used to break into the place, right? And so they try to go find the boyfriend and warn them, and that's where they run across Johnny, who tries to go after them, but they get on their little ATV and they run away. And then we watch Johnny walk off, and then it does turn to night, so we don't get to watch him walk the full way, but we get to watch him walk upon the ranger station as the ranger, the girlfriend, and the friend, who are the last two survivors of everybody, are talking with the ranger. And I'm going through this relatively quick, and you think this is relatively quick, But this is, again, you have to imagine that in between each of these scenes, there are just giant fucking walking parts. Like, it feels like they're 5 minutes of walking to get to a scene that maybe is 2 minutes or 3 minutes, to get to a longer walking scene, to get to another 2 to 3 minute scene, to get to a walking scene. Like, that is ultimately the biggest problem with this, because we have this here, and then we get the dumbest and slowest kill that I've seen in the longest fucking time. So we learned that the Ranger knows about the pendant, and the Ranger was involved in stopping Johnny 10 years ago, right? So that his dad was actually the miner that survived. Somehow Johnny was resurrected after that, and it's been in the last 10 years that, you know, he got resurrected again. And this time, you know, that the Ranger didn't believe in the stories, yada, yada, yada. And then he's the one that buried him in the ground, right? And left the pendant. And to myself, I'm thinking, why wouldn't you, like, protect that area? Why wouldn't you, even if you don't have to put a giant sign up that says, you know, please don't steal this fucking pendant, or an ancient evil is going to rise from the grave and kill you and your friends. You don't have to put that thing up there, because that's probably also going to entice a lot of people to go over there and get that as well. But you could cover it in barbed wire. You could do a lot of, you could hide it and someone get it a ghillie suit or some shit like that. So that way it doesn't, you know, entice anybody to take it. It's just, it's like dumb little things like that. So, you know, they see, well, the Ranger sees Johnny in the distance and decides to shoot him down, which he does. And then he's holding the gun over him, and he tells the friend to go into the thing and grab some chain, right? The barn or whatever it is out there, the garage, the car hole, whatever you call it. And so the friend brings back the chain, and it's just, it's dumb because, like, he's holding the gun. He's like, all right, wrap his legs. He's like, I can't do it. Oh, fine. I'm going to slowly pass you my gun while I go over there and grab the chains and start to wrap him up in the chains. And you, who can't even do that, you're going to be the one to shoot the guy in case he gets up. Okay? Yeah, that's dumb, because the moment that they pass hands, that's when Johnny gets his hand up and, like, then starts a fight with the Ranger. So the girlfriend, and who's no longer a girlfriend, I guess she's single now, and the friend, they run off, you know, with a gas canister and a bunch of other stuff. And that's when the Ranger is having a good old tussle with Johnny. So they have the tussle on the ground. Johnny gets the advantage and then breaks his spine so that he's paralyzed. And I was like, oh, that's brutal. Like, okay, you're just gonna leave him there, and, like, basically, oh, because I felt like it was gonna be this, like, analogy, like, you left me in the ground unable to move because you know, by the power of the pendant or whatever the hell this is, like, I'm fucking He-Man and that's the sword of Eternia. You did that, so I'm gonna just make it so that you can't move. Here we go, break your back. That's it. Like, I thought that was kind of cool, except the next scene happens. Now, I've never seen a contraption like this before, but it's some log cutting thing where I bet that it's meant for you to, like, if it's a real thing, you pull it with the handle back and forth like this, right? And maybe you do it fast and it cuts into the wood fast, and then you can, person puts the wood and cuts, because it's like a saw blade or not, an axe blade, and it's on the end of a piston, and it just goes like that. Like that. And so the guy's paralyzed and can't feel shit. So he puts his arm up on there and cuts off his hand. Okay, and then he puts his head up there and cuts off his head. It doesn't, I just don't get it. It's not interesting. It's dumb because he got freaking paralyzed, and it's so slow. Like, literally, he's got his hand right here, right? He's got his hand, and here's the blade, right? And so he's got the hand sitting up there, and it's just moving like this. It's like the fucking scene in Austin Powers where he's driving the fucking bulldozer, and he's slowly, like, the guy's, like, screaming, and he's like, tell him, get out of the way, get out of the way. And it just eventually, to the point that it hits the arm, and then and it cuts through. And then they do it for the fucking head, too. It's just, it's not good. It's honestly pretty dumb. So it kind of is what it is for the way that they're doing with the movie. So then there's him walking off into the forest once again to go chase after the other ones. And, you know, at this point, the movie's kind of started to lose me. And it's going to lose me in a big time in just a moment, because I feel like we have an ending point, and then they go well beyond the ending point for like another what seems like 10 to 15 minutes. So the they're the so the friend and the girl, right, the ex-girlfriend now, they're out there running, and they basically are hiding, and Johnny's walking through the forest looking for them, and they start to talk, and Johnny can hear them. They're like, "Oh my God, no, don't say anything. He can hear us. He sees us. He knows where we are. Okay, well, we need to make sure that we don't get out of the..." And it's like, if he can hear you, stop fucking talking and figure out how you can get the fuck out of there. And so then all of a sudden the friend shows up, and, "I'm not going to let you hurt her." And Johnny takes his axe and then just like brings him right there with the axe, and his head goes splitting open, and he's just all over the place, and blood's everywhere. And then, he all of a sudden the friend falls to the ground, and the Johnny just starts beating him to shit with the axe into mush. And so that's when the friend, the girl, she takes off the pendant, puts it on the canister of gas, because they were going to set a trap for him, right, and then burn him alive, I guess, with a gas canister. But instead they failed, and friend who just lost his dad just lost his life. So she takes off the pendant, puts it on the gas canister, and runs the fuck away. Okay, that's where the movie should have ended. Right there. Like, even with her running through the forest and finding some help on the road, it's a little extra, but I'm like, okay, if this is where it ends. But no, it doesn't fucking end. It keeps going. Why does it keep going? Because we have to have her meet some random chick in a fucking truck and tell this story. Like, she lies about what she was involved with the woods. She says, oh, there was some animal, and she's bleeding profusely from the leg. And meanwhile, like, I was waiting for Johnny just to randomly pop out. The cool thing about it is that we go from his perspective only to her perspective only. Like, so I know that there's a change, and I was like, okay, nothing's going to happen to her, because now the camera is hyper-focused on her, and the audience has to be hyper-focused on her. But I wanted him to pop out of the middle of nowhere to either kill her or give her one last thing that we see her overcome. Because the ranger says, if you gave the pendant back to him, none of this is going to stop. He's going to keep coming after until he kills you. But what happens when she gives the pendant back? He never follows her ever fucking again. And we have to go through this whole fucking side story with this lady telling the story about a bear and this one dude, and how, like, he struggled and struggled and struggled, and he knew the bear had a clamp on him, but he still persevered, and then he knocked out and was resurrected later with CPR. Like, that's the end. Like, 15 to 20 minutes of the end of this movie is this lady. And then they stop at the side of the road because she's like passing out. Oh, you can't pass out on me. You got to stay awake. And so she's going to wrap her leg to make sure that she doesn't bleed anymore. And I thought, whoa, Johnny's going to pop up right here possibly and kill. And then all of a sudden we learn that no, she's safe. And she's looking into the woods, and it looks like nothing's there, but something could be there. And then eventually nothing is there, and she's relieved, and we're at the end of the fucking movie. Now, I bet that there's something bigger to this section than what I'm going into, but this just absolutely ruined the whole movie for me, right? I could deal with the slow walking shit. I could. Well, I should say I could for the first 40 minutes of the movie. But towards the end, I'm like, this is just, it's getting to be way too much. There's just so much of this. Like, why do we have, I get it, we were following the killer, and we need to go where he goes, but, like, you don't have to, all you have to do is just show up at the next killing scene, and then just extend some parts of the killing scene. If you want to give us more story, give us more story. If you want to give us, just elongated pauses with him, but as he's watching them, so that we're creepy from the far away, just like he is, where he's plotting and planning and trying to figure out, well, how am I going to get these young girls or these young boys or whatever it is. And it seems like he only plots against the women in this movie, but with the boys, he just outright fucking maims and murders them, right? They're the only one to really get the worst is the weird, like, college stereotype chick, right? She definitely gets it worse out of everybody in this movie. Second would be the first guy that was interested in, like, the two girls at the gas station. But it's just, I don't know. And then the killing scene with the ranger is just dumb. It's not fun. It's boring. And that's a lot of this movie, is just, like, in between these, like, great scenes is just a lot of boredom, right? And even as I look back to it, like I can't. I normally I would go into it, maybe I could talk myself out and be like, you know what? In the main review, the final verdict was a 2 out of 5, and after I thought about it, it's like a 3 out of 5. I just really can't go any higher than a 2 out of 5. I don't think that it's again. I think the premise is interesting. I think their ideas are interesting. I just think the execution is just not there for this movie. And that's why the score is the way it is. So I don't know if you guys seen this movie. If you had, leave your comments down below. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm missing something here. You know, I think there's going to be some people, and I think it's going to be very divisive for those that have seen this movie, whether or not it's good to them or it's a bad movie. So I'm not saying that this is a bad movie, and I'm not really going to go and say, oh, these directors should never work again, because I've never made a fucking movie in my life. You know, what they're doing is amazing, that they're able to take their ideas and put it onto film and get it released. And this is a Shudder movie, so it should be on Shudder soon. So whenever it hits Shudder, maybe give it a watch and tell me if I'm wrong if you haven't seen it yet. So if you're not following already, please like and subscribe to the channel. A lot of people, again, when I look at the analytics, a lot of people come to the videos are people that aren't subscribers to the channel. So if you made it this far in the video, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button for me. Thanks. Otherwise, follow the Terrible Terror podcast. There was a recent episode released on Leprechaun 4, Leprechaun in Space. That's the best Tim Curry that I could do. I love that movie. So dumb, but it's so entertaining. So it's definitely a watch through. I asked this question last time. If people made it this far into the video, do you want to have the audio podcast put up on the YouTube channel? Let me know. Just say yes or no in the comments below. I know some people use YouTube a lot for a lot of different things. I'm always a little worried because there is, you know, audio from the movie in the thing. I'm not monetized or anything right now, so I'm not hurting monetization, so it still might go through. But it'd be interesting to see if people would want the regular podcast to be thrown over here. Come join me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/terribleterrors. Usually Monday through Fridays, I'm doing something over there, whether it's gaming, chatting, whatever it is. Come by, stop, talk horror, do all that fun stuff. Yeah, and that is it. So, one last thing. I do want to say, if you guys have made it this far in the video, a friend of mine, her name is Alex. She goes by Kute_Kitti or Kute Kitti. She has a cosplaying Instagram I'd like you guys to check out. The link's going to be in the link below, but I am going to magically put right here. I'm going to try to get it over there. This awesome cosplay that she did of Pyramid Head that has just like been going crazy viral. And I'd really appreciate you guys if you went and checked out the rest of her cosplay stuff. It'd mean a lot to me, and it definitely would mean a lot to her. So go check her out, and that's Instagram.com/CuteKittyCosplay. And like I said, the link will be in the description below. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. We got a couple more things that'll be coming out in terms of reviews, and y'all take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.